Si Audrey doon, oh. Lalabas si Audrey.
So, good day everyone. Welcome to our second week discussion about Hebrew literature. So, for the content, next slide po. So, we'll be discussing about the Book of Ruth, its background and theme, Adil and Michal, David and Goliath, and lastly, the Psalm 23. So, the Book of Ruth, it will be discussed by Miss Yvonne.
All right, am I audible?
Yes po.
Okay, sorry, thank you. So, the Book of Ruth, the author of that book is does not specifically name its author because the tradition is that the Book of Ruth was written by the prophet Samuel. Based on my research, Prophet Samuel, born in 1070 before Common Era and died at 1012 before Common Era, and Rama Benjamin Traditional. The author is figure who in the narrative of the Hebrew Bible plays a key role in transition from the biblical judges to the United Kingdom of Israel under Saul, and again in the monarchy's transition from Saul to David. He also is venerated as a prophet of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In addition to his role in Hebrew scripture, he also mentioned in Jewish rabbinical literature and the Christian New Testament and in the second chapter of the Quran, although Islamic texts do not mention him by name. Going back to the Book of Ruth, the date of writing is not exact date of the Book of Ruth was written is uncertain. However, the prevalent view is date between 10,011 and 931 before Common Era. The setting of the Book of Ruth is in Bethlehem and was circa 11 before Common Era. So the characters in the story first is Ruth. Ruth, Ruth is the older daughter-in-law of Naomi, originally a housewife of Moab. Married Naomi's son, Mahlon, she loses her husband before they have any children. The second one of the character is Boaz, a prominent wealthy man and a kinsman. Boaz meets Ruth when she gleans in his field, and he is all of Ruth's generosity toward Naomi. Naomi is the one of the two most important characters in the Book of Ruth. Naomi's life is the real struggle of the most of the Book of Ruth. Fourth one is Oprah, is one of Naomi's two daughters-in-law, married to Naomi's son, Chilion, before he passes away. Mahlon and Chilion is the son of Elimelech. Baby Obed is the son of Ruth and Boaz. Okay, for the summary of the Book of Ruth, the setting of the Book of Ruth begins in the Eden country of Moab, a region northeast of Dead Sea, but then moves to Bethlehem. This true account takes place during the dismal days of failure and rebellion of Israelites, called the period of the Judges. A famine forces Elimelech and his wife Naomi from their Israelite from homes to the country of Moab. Elimelech dies, and Naomi is left with her two sons, who soon marry to Moabite girls, Oprah and Ruth. Later, both of her sons die, and Naomi is left alone and Oprah and Ruth in the Lord in a strange land. Oprah returned to her parents, but Ruth determines to stay with Naomi as they journey to Bethlehem. This story of love and devotion tells Ruth's eventual marriage to a wealthy man named Boaz, by whom he bears a son, Obed, who becomes the grandfather of David and ancestor of Jesus. Obedience brings Ruth into privileged lineage of Christ. A famine forces Elimelech and his wife Naomi from Israelite home to the country of Moab. Elimelech dies, and Naomi is left with her two sons, who soon married to Moab girls and Oprah and Ruth.
Wait lang.
Later, both of sons dies. Later, both Later, both of sons dies, and Naomi is left alone with Oprah and Ruth in a strange land. Oprah returned to her parents, but Ruth determines to stay with Naomi as they journey to Bethlehem. The story of love and devotion tells of Ruth's eventual marriage to wealthy man named Boaz, to whom she bears a son, Obed, who becomes the grandfather to David and the ancestor of Jesus. Obedience brings Ruth into privileged lineage of Christ. Themes and background. During the times of Judges, themes are God's mercy of two widows, redemptions, God used to apparently significant people. Last is God's control of circumstances.
Next slide po. So, the author of A Dill Pickle is Kathleen Mansfield Morine Beauchamp. So, kilala siya bilang sa pen name na Catherine Mansfield. She is one of the most influential modernist short story writer and poet in 20th century. Pinanganak siya sa Wellington, New Zealand noong October 14, 1888, and she left New Zealand for England at the age of 19 to begin her career as an author. She was influenced by Anton Chekhov, and she incorporated some of his techniques and themes into her writing. So, yung cause ng pagkamatay niya is tuberculosis after she published her last collection entitled The Garden Party and Other Stories in 1922. Next slide, please. So, Adele Pickle was published in October 4, 1917, and it was based on the author's own experience. The setting of this story is in a restaurant. Next slide po. So, the characters in the story are Vera, female protagonist, and the image of the author self. And the second one is the man or the male protagonist and Vera's former lover. Next po.
So the story started when the two former lovers met by chance in a restaurant after 6 years. So the man, which is Vera's ex-lover, he was seated at one of those little bamboo tables. May mga prutas sa harapan niya, and in a way Vera recognized immediately as his special way. He was peeling an orange. At first, di pa siya makilala ng lalaki, pero nung mas lumapit pa si Vera sa kanya, his face lit up due to recognition. So then, they sit together and started talking about how Vera dislikes the cold weather. As she talks, she was interrupted by her former lover calling out for the waitress. Bigla niyang naalala kung gaano niya kinaiinisan yung trick na ginagawa ng ex niya, which is yung pinapertain ni Vera dito na trick is about the trick of interrupting her while she converse. Then they started reminiscing past events like nung pumunta sila nung Kew Garden. Kwento ng lalaki yung mga nangyari doon, nakala mo pure bliss yung time na yon. However, naalala naman ni Vera yung absurd scene where her ex was behaving like a maniac dahil sa mga wasp. He was weaving and flapping the wasp with his straw hat. Then, though Vera thinks that her ex was certainly far better looking than he had been before. His aura fills with confidence and an assurance. Next slide po. Then after that, kwento naman ng lalaki yung journey niya abroad, saying that he has accomplished alone the things that they had said they would do together. He told her about Russia at kung gaano kakaiba daw yung society doon. He seems to be prosperous than his originally being perhaps poorer self, while Vera seems to be struggling now because she sold her piano and has no longer time for music, which she was very fond of. The man's the man's manners, however, still partly reflect his poorer origin. Like when he offended Vera by recalling she had few friends, talks repeatedly about money and what things cost, and he claims that nung sila pa daw ni Vera ay mas mahal niya daw yung babae. Next slide po. Then finally, Then finally, he dismisses their earlier selves as immature, and he mentioned how he studied the mind in Russia. In here, he wasn't able to finish his sentence because Vera suddenly leaves. Though he recovers quickly from his surprise and asks the waitress not to charge him for the cream which had not been used. And that's how the story ends. Thank you. Next na po.
Hello, audible po.
Yes po.
Thank you. So, yung next na story is about David and Goliath. So, alam ko naman na we're familiar na din sa story na to since dati nakakwento na to sa atin. So, next slide po. So, about the story. So, David and Goliath is written in First Samuel chapter 17 of Old Testament. And also, sinulat din ito ni Prophet Samuel. And it happened in 11th century before Christ in the valley of Elah in the north of ancient Palestine. So, next slide po. Pwede po palagay sa background and theme.
Backgrounds.
Thank you. And so David and Goliath is a Bible story relates to a key Christian teaching from the book of Samuel in the Old Testament. So ayun, since David and Goliath is nakasulat siya sa Bible, particularly in Old Testament in First Samuel chapter 17. So it tells the story of two tribes of people known as the Israelites and Philistine. So, dati merong dalawang tribes ng people, yung Philistine and Israelites. And due to being enemies, they planned a large battle against each other and assemble armies. So the theme of this story is David courage to fight a giant, which is Goliath, and um, his faith in the Lord na tutulungan siya to overcome Goliath. So God's love to his disciples. So since si David is also a disciple of Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ, so pinakita niya yung love and care niya kay David by helping him na um, ma-overcome or matalo si Goliath. So next is God was there to help us. So tayo din, nandyan si God, always there na to help us in overcoming yung mga Goliath din sa mga buhay natin. Next slide po, sa character po. Ayan, thank you. So these are the characters of David and Goliath. So si Goliath. So Goliath was a mostly mean, big and burly Philistine. So he wore armor every day and fighting was his thing, or he was skilled at hand combat. So to avoid massive bloodshed, Goliath volunteers to challenge one Israelite. So since Goliath was big, so he couldn't think one who can defeat him. So, so Goliath ridiculed David for his small size, but he was defeated by David's quick thinking. So next is to David. So David was an Israelite, a shepherd boy who did what's right. He offered to defend the land with the pebbles and a sling. So David was the youngest son of Jesse, who's taking good care of the sheep. He was small than his brother and was just a shepherd boy. And David uses his small stature and clever mind to his advantage and defeat Goliath. Next po. So there was a war in the land of Israel. The Philistines were attacking the Israelites every morning, and a giant Philistine named Goliath challenged any Israelite to fight him. So Goliath was bigger and taller than anyone else, and he was strong. He wore heavy armor and carried a sword with spear and large shield. So Goliath shouted to them every morning and every night for 40 days. So he told them to choose a man to fight him. But Israelites were afraid of him and no one dared to fight him. So sabi dito na every morning and every night sumisigaw si Goliath na maghanap ng isang man na magfa-fight sa kanya or um, magtalo sa kanya. But it seems na syempre giant siya. So parang iniisip niya na walang makakatalo sa kanya. Next slide po. So David was a young shepherd boy who had a faith in the Lord. His elder brothers were soldiers in Israel army. One day, Jesse sent David, so si Jesse, yun yung father ni David, to take some food to them. When he arrived at the army's camps, he heard Goliath's challenge. Ayan. So dito naman sa part na ito, si David, inutusan siya ni Jesse, yung father niya, na magdala ng food doon sa army's camp wherein yung mga brothers niya is nandoon. Kasali siya sa mga army. Ayan. Next slide po. So David asked the soldiers why no one defended Israel. His brothers were angry and told him to go take care of the sheep. But David knew the Lord would defend the Israel. So dito naman, tinanong niya kung bakit walang nagtangka na kumalaban kay Goliath. But since nga yung mga brother niya andoon, and si David, shepherd siya, so may mga sheep siyang inaalagaan. So sabi sa kanya na parang umuwi na lang siya and alagaan yung mga sheep niya. Next po. So, King Saul knew of David's fate. So, si King Saul po, siya yung king ng Israel that time. So, he asked to see David, and David told Saul he was not afraid to fight Goliath. David explained that once when he was looking after his sheep, he killed a lion and a bear. The Lord protected him then, and David knew the Lord would protect him now. So, dito sa part na ito, since si Saul, yung king ng Israel that time, so nag-ask siya sa mga siguro soldiers niya na tawagin si David and dalhin sa kanya. So, sabi doon, nag-ask si David sa kanya na kung pwede siya yung kumalaban kay Goliath. And sa part na to, nagsabi siya na um, na-try niya na din na makapatay ng lion and a bear with the help ni God. Ayan. So, sabi niya, once na siya yung magkahalaban kay Goliath, he knew na tutulungan din siya ni God. Next po. So, Saul gave David his armor, but it didn't fit. So, David took it off. He decided to fight without any armor. So, dahil doon, um, since si Saul is servant din siya ni Lord, so ang ginawa niya, pumayag siya na um, si David yung kumalaban kay Goliath. And yun nga, ginawa niya is nagbigay siya ng armor kay David. But since then, si David ay medyo payat siya, maliit. So, hindi nagkasya sa kanya yung mga armor. And since nga mabigat siya, so hindi siya makagalaw ng maayos dahil sa mga armor na iyon. Next po. So, ang ginawa ni David, he collected 5 smooth stones and put them in a bag. He took his sling and shepherd staff and went to face Goliath. So, para ang lang ng part na iyon na since si Goliath, naka-wear siya ng armor, may spear, sword, and may shield. Si David, ang dala niya lang is a 5 smooth stone and yung sling niya na or sa Tagalog, tirador pa. Parang ganon. So, and a staff na ginagamit niya once um, pag nagli-lead siya ng mga sheep. Next po. So when Goliath saw David, he shouted and made fun of him. He said a shepherd boy could not beat him. David shouted back that he trusted the Lord to protect him. David said he would beat Goliath to show the Lord's greatness. So diyan, syempre, sa part na yan na nakita niya si David na maliit, payat, and then walang armor sa mga katawan, wala ding sword or anything na panglaban, tinawanan or minak siya ni Goliath. But then, ang sabi ni David sa kanya na alam niya or nagtitiwala siya in the Lord na poprotektahan siya and will help him beat Goliath. David ran toward Goliath. He quickly threw a stone with his sling. the stone hit Goliath in the forehead, and the giant man fell to the ground. The Lord helped David defeat Goliath without a sword or armor. So, ayun na nga. Parang sa part na yan, di ba, since parang minalit niya si David and didn't expect na matatalo siya ni David. Ang ginawa ni David is yung stone na kinuha niya kanina, nilagay niya doon sa sling, and then hinit niya si David si Goliath sa forehead, and then ayun natumba si Goliath. So sabi diyan, the Lord helped David to defeat without a sword or armor. When the Philistines saw that Goliath was dead, they ran away in fear. The Israelites won the battle, and David trusted the Lord, and the Lord protected Israel. So, sa part na yan, siyempre, yun nga, si Goliath yung parang pinaka-ace nila sa group or sa Philistine armies. So, nung nakita ng mga Philistine armies or soldiers na natumba na si Goliath, they ran away. So, next po, David, the brave young man of God who killed the giant Goliath with a single stone. David, who danced before the Lord, praising his name in the psalm. He was the second king in the ancient United Kingdom of Israel who helped establish the eternal throne of God. So, sa part na ito, yung sa pinaka-end, nung time na natalo ni David si Goliath, soon, naging king na din siya ng mga Israelite. And then, sa part na yun, naggawa siya ng praise to the Lord or thanksgiving niya para kay God about helping him na matalo si Goliath. Next po. So, Psalm is the first book of the Ketuvim writings, and the third section of the Hebrew Bible. It is composed of sacred songs or of sacred poems meant to be sung. And some themselves range in mood and expression of faith from joyous celebration to solemn hymn and bitter protest. They are sometimes classified according to forms or types. So the major forms include the hymn, the lament or yung grief or sorrow, the song of confidence, and the song of thanksgiving. And yun nga, since yung Psalm 23, it is a famous song King David wrote and sang about the Lord and how the Lord was his protector. Next po. Yan. So, ito po yung nakasulat sa Psalm 23. And so, ang gagawin natin dito is by verse, may siya, explanation kung bakit yun yung sinulat ni King David. So first is, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. So though this verse is just a single sentence, it speaks volumes about David's view of the Lord. So it expresses his confidence that with the Lord as his shepherd, he was no worries and no fears. So di ba yung shepherd, siya yung protector of a flock. So ibig sabihin siya yung um, parang siya yung leader or nagpo-protect sa mga sheep. So to be one of the Lord's flock means he was our personal guardian. He see to it that we are safe and care of. So to say that I shall not want means that I will lack for nothing because he will provide for everything. I need. So, ibig sabihin doon, ang sabi ni David na since shepherd niya si shepherd niya ang Lord, ibig sabihin the Lord will protect him, and I shall not want means na he will provide for everything na kailangan ni David. So next verse is he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He laideth me beside me in still waters. So yung responsibilities ng mga shepherd was to get the sheep to green pastures so they could eat. So parang nilalagay sila sa malawak na damuhan para makakain sila. David tell us that because of his shepherd, those flock can rest in peace without fear and can lie down in midst of plenty even there are predators around. So katulad nga ng sabi niya, 'di ba? Since si David ay isang shepherd, ang ginawa niya nakapatay siya ng lion and ng bear to protect yung mga sheep. So ganun din daw si Lord sa atin. And the water to quench their tears. So para din hindi sila mauhaw. Ayan. So, yung third verse is, He restored my soul. He laid me in thy paths of righteousness for his name's sake. So, we often do not understand why the Lord does what he does. And we often say okay to those times, knowing that the Lord will lead us to the path of righteousness of our own benefit. So, sabi dito na um, may mga times daw na hindi natin alam kung ano yung purpose, kung bakit ganito, bakit ganyan. But knowing na the Lord will lead us to the path of righteousness and para din sa mismong benefit natin. So the Lord love us so much and want and what and wants what the best for us. So parang dahil mahal tayo ng Panginoon, ang gusto niya lang is kung ano yung mas makakabuti para sa atin. So number 4, yea, though I walk through the valley of thee. Okay. Number 4. And so yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I will fear no evil. So sabi diyan, through such terrifying place, a valley of the shadow of death, he will fear no evil. So bakit? Kasi 'di ba, because of his shepherd, Christ is with him. So sabi diyan na um, kahit daw sa path or sa valley ng shadow of death, hindi siya matatakot kasi meron siyang shepherd, which is the Lord, na magaguide and magproprotect sa kanya. So the rod or the staff is a instrument of a shepherd to protect or to lead his flock. Ayan. So David, having complete confidence in his shepherd's ability to save him from harm, he can walk even under the shadow of death itself and fear no evil. So, ayan. So, ang sabi dito, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. So, sabi diyan na kahit daw sa valley or kahit daw maglakad siya sa valley of darkness or sa death, hindi daw siya matatakot kasi nandyan na si Lord to protect him and guide him and nga to comfort him. So number 5, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil and cup overflows. So Jaan, thou preparest mine enemy means the Lord is cared for under all circumstances. So, ibig sabihin daw, um, the Lord is care for us sa lahat ng mga circumstances na pinagdadaanan daw natin. So, the cup Run it over reference, not to having more than just enough, but more than you could possibly keep. So sabi, di ba dyan, my cup overflows. So sabi, having more than just enough, but more than you could possibly keep. So hindi lang kung ano yung enough, pero kung ano daw yung pwede nating makip or ma-store. So sa last verse, surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
Ay, kahit ano sirado mo, si Hoji pa rin magbukas ng ano.
It is a statement of gratitude, confidence, and love, an expression of appreciation
Hindi.
and acknowledgement of his God. So to say to be part of Christ's flock, those he protects and cares for, goodness and mercy will follow or be with them all the days of his life, and he will dwell in God's house forever. So sa last part na yan is
Ayan, natapon
yun
natin.
nga, statement of gratitude and love and ano, expression of appreciation ni David sa Panginoon. Ayan. So, yan po. Last verse. Ay, last slide po. So, ito ay makikita sa Psalm um, 35 verse 1 to 4. When we are faced with hard battles or when life overwhelms us, we never have to run away in fear because the Lord is my shepherd and I will fear no evil. So, yun nga. Sabi dyan, parang no matter what, kung ano yung kakaharapin natin, like Goliath or mga giants, problems, or obstacles in life, um, we should not run away or matakot kasi nga the Lord is our shepherd and He will protect and comfort us and He will guide us and yun, dahil sa love and care niya sa atin, magiging, ma-overcome natin yung battle na yan. So, ayan, i-share ko lang din, ang sabi kasi dito, Psalm of David is about his love and gratitude for the Lord, our shepherd who loves, care, and protect us. A shepherd who wants what the best for his flocks and leadeth them to righteousness. Fear no loneliness, fear no failure, fear no pain, fear no uncertainty, fear no limits, fear no question, fear no outcome, fear no judgment, and fear no evil, for thou art with us. So, parang lahat ng mga fear or kinakatakutan natin, huwag daw tayo matakot kasi nandyan siya for us na to guide and help us or protect us in all the battles we face in life. So that's end our discussion about Hebrew literature. Thank you.
Yay, tapos na.